Before I run a clip of Michael Parenti speaking on the practices of empires, I want to first get some of Noam Chomsky's critiques on empires. Chomsky believes empires often exploit colonies for their natural resources, such as minerals, timber, and agricultural products. This can be done through direct control of resource extraction or by pressuring local governments to grant favorable concessions to foreign companies. Empires often manipulate trade agreements to their advantage, imposing tariffs or quotas that disadvantage the economies of their colonies. This can lead to a situation where colonies are forced to export raw materials at low prices and import manufactured goods at high prices. Empires may also pressure colonies to take on unsustainable levels of debt, which can be used as leverage to extract further concessions or even territorial control. Now off to this passionate talk by Parenti on empires, followed by some of the other ways empires manipulate and dominate others.
Why do people go out and conquer other places? It's not conquest just for conquest's sake. It's not power just for power's sake. It's rarely power just for power's sake. Of course, individuals try to pursue and project their careers to get up there to get into positions of power and will sell their souls for anything. But generally, even they have to operate in a field of interest. There are interests involved. There are very real material interests at stake. There's plunder, and there's tribute, and there are resources and markets, and there's expropriating the land and the crops and the natural resources and the minerals and the wealth and the cheap labor, or in the case of Rome, the slave labor. If you want to know why so many countries in the third world are so poor, just look at the history of imperialism. They weren't naturally and inevitably poor. They were made poor. Underdevelopment was something that was imposed on them. They were developing. They had wealth. Many of them had very advanced civilizations. They were forced back and plundered and impoverished. Empires are enormously profitable, mostly for the ruling class. Empires are also enormously costly, mostly for the common populace. The people of Rome didn't do too well on the empires. They got a grain dole and that was it. They often paid the price in blood. They were piled up in tenements and like, and that's the truth of every empire. The empire feeds off the resources of the republic. And that was true of the Roman Empire in its days, right to the late Republic. That was true of the British Empire, and that's true today. The people pay the taxes and do without essentials so that the patricians can pursue their far-off plunder. The center is bled so that the perimeter can expand. Athens is defunded and starved so that Sparta can batten and grow ever more powerful. We see that happening today right here in this country. $200 billion being spent in Iraq. We don't know where one-third the money's going. The Pentagon has admitted at least one-third of the money is totally unaccountable. They just don't know. We're talking about billions of dollars here. We don't know where that money's going. A few giant oil cartels are reeking it in. They now have control of an oil resource. They don't have direct ownership. They prefer to keep it in nominal ownership to the Iraqi government. But they have control now of an oil reserve which at today's prices must be over $5 trillion. $5 trillion. You could say, well, that's an oil supply that's for us consumers. We'd be without oil to heat our homes and fuel our cars. No, you wouldn't be without oil. When the Iraqis owned their own oil, they were happy to sell it to the U.S. at market prices. In fact, that's what the first Gulf War was about. Saddam Hussein wanted he wanted a bigger piece of the world oil quota. And George Bush Sr. was keeping him out and saying, no, Iraqi crude is some of the best in the world. It's the second largest reserve in the world. Oil prices were very low. He would glut the market. Prices would go down. You know what happens when prices go down on oil? Their profits go down. You know what happens when prices go up? Their profits go up, as you can see just recently. Record profits by the oil companies. We pay for that. We pay in the taxes. We paid that $200 billion. We pay, every community in this country pays that. I go all over this country speaking, and I pick up the papers, and it often looks like this. I'm in the same place every time. The same story every time. City council votes cuts in the budget. State legislature facing large deficit. This and that. Schools closing, libraries closing, hospital closing, lack of funding, so forth, so on. The empire feeds off the republic. Somebody's got to pay for that. They got more money than they can even count or hold accountable there in Iraq. Very little of it has gone to the Iraqi people. The water purification plants still haven't been put into function yet. After 3 years, very few of them. The electrical systems in many places, neighborhoods in Baghdad where you get 4 hours of electricity if you're lucky, so forth. Where is all the money going, everyone's asking? Well, for some people, empire is quite profitable. Don't ever say that George Bush's policy in Iraq isn't working. It's working. It's just not working for you or for me or for the Iraqis, but it's working for certain interests. It's working in the way that empires have always worked. To say George Bush's policy isn't working is a senseless comment. It's not a political comment. It's not a politically defined comment. So discard it, because you have to say working for whom? Whose interest? Cui bono is the Latin phrase. Who benefits? Who gets the payoff on this? And just because many of our liberal commentators don't know what they're doing doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing. You get it? And when you think those who rule you, when you think those who rule the wealth and control the markets and the labor and the resources of society and set the wages and define the labor market and control the media culture and all that, when you think they're stupid, then you're being stupid. You got that?
Chomsky says that empires often exacerbate existing social and political divisions within colonies, playing different groups against each other to maintain control. This can create long-term instability and hinder the development of strong, independent states. Empires may install puppet governments in their colonies, which serve their interests rather than the interests of the local population. This can further entrench economic and political inequalities. Empires often crack down on any form of dissent or resistance to their rule, using violence, intimidation, and propaganda to maintain control. Chomsky also suggests that empires may impose their own education systems on their colonies, which can serve to erase local cultures and identities and indoctrinate the population with the values of the colonizer. Empires often control the media and information flow in their colonies, shaping public opinion and narratives to their own advantage. Empires may promote the assimilation of colonized peoples into their own culture, eroding their traditional ways of life and languages. I hope you like this video and give the channel a subscribe. Take care and bye-bye.